Welcome to the Like a Doss podcast, where Ronnie Doss shares insights regarding life, leadership, and personal development. For more of our resources, visit ronniedoss.com. Now, let's join the podcast.
Hey there, it's Ronnie Doss. Welcome to the podcast. Today I have my lovely lady friend, the beautiful Miss Jennifer Doss, here in the studio. We need to get one of those things that sounds like applause when you hit the button and everybody claps, that Miss Jen Doss is here.
Yeah.
Welcome to you just stopped by today. You said you wanted to come by. Thanks for being here.
I did want to stop by.
You should come by here more often.
I should.
You should be on the podcast more often. So many people have said, we love hearing from Jen.
Well, you people are all so sweet.
I'm
so
sweet.
I'll stop by and I'll bring you milk and cookies. How about that?
I'm Santa Claus.
You are.
Today. Anyway, okay,
Bringing
from
all
that,
the gifts.
let's jump in. You said you wanted to stop in and discuss something. What are we discussing? What would you like to talk about?
Well, yeah, because you and I are constantly going back and forth with creative content. Like, what could we put out there for your audience, per se, as far as podcast? And what you do for your work is you create experiences for people. And I think sometimes not everyone will know exactly what that means. So I just kind of wanted to expound on that a little bit. And through what you do in live events, like our Emerge event that we have coming up, and then through your, like when you're coaching with your clients and when you're doing a keynote speech, you create such an experience for people that's really hard to explain when I'm just talking to someone about what you do. So I thought that would be a really good podcast topic to talk about. It's just what it means to create an experience and why it's so important.
Well, thank you. First of all, I do create an experience. Now, we all do. I think there's so many great people out there speaking and sharing content and information. I mean, there's so much noise on the internet, social media. There's a lot of that. I think that everybody is an expert now. I think everybody wants to be an expert, and they project themselves as experts. But one of the things that I learned years ago when I started speaking and doing this type of work, it's been over 10 years ago, which is amazing, is that there's two ways to learn. The first way to learn something is through repetition. The second way to learn something is through emotional involvement, which is ultimately having an experience that hits you on a deeper level than just on the conscious level. You know, when you get your emotion involved, when you feel something, you tend to remember it. You guys know the old quote. It was the Maya Angelou quote. She said, people will forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. When you help people to feel something and have a bigger, more powerful experience than just something on the intellectual level, I think it sticks with people longer, and it becomes more of who it is that they genuinely are. It becomes more of a beingness part of them versus just something on the head level. And so in doing that, I think for all of us, there's a work that we need to do. I think that we need to put ourselves in situations where we become intentionally stressed, like intentionally frustrated, that we feel a pressure that we've decided to produce ourselves by being intentional and setting ourselves into what I call intentional tension. And a lot of times people don't do that. And so because they don't put themselves into these environments or these stress situations, they don't really see themselves grow or expand in capacity at the rate that they could. And some people are completely happy with where they are. They think they believe they've created enough success and they're fine. But a majority of people that we see, that I talk to, obviously, when I'm out traveling and speaking, is that people know that there's another level for them. And I think the way that you get to another level is that you put yourself into situations where you have no choice but to grow. You know, as parents, in the beginning, people say, well, we don't know if we're ready to have kids. I don't know if you're ever ready to have children. I think the only way that you get ready is that you have the kid, right? And then I mean, am I right?
Absolutely.
100. So were we ready when we had our first kid?
Thought we were.
Maybe thought we were, but we weren't. I mean, there's just things that you can only know when you have that experience. And so it's the same thing with marriage. You think you know, and then I mean, fortunately, you married the greatest
I'm
guy.
married perfection. What can I say?
I mean, let's keep it reals. Anyway, but like that kind of thing is like you can't know until you've experienced it. And so the reason that I love doing what I do when I go speak or do our trainings like we have coming up is because in creating an experience for people, if you can create it intentionally in the room, create an experience where a person takes on some of the things that maybe have been running their life, some of their limiting beliefs, some of the constructs they've built in their mind. They've created this almost an incarceration in their own mind, and they can be doing well, but if you know you're not doing as well as you could, and there's really another level for you, it's easy to be frustrated with yourself a bit because you know you're not operating at maximum capacity. And so doing an experience, creating an event, doing a training or a seminar like we do, I think is much more beneficial than just reading a book or just listening to a podcast. I think when you put yourself into the work, it starts to work on you. And from that place, you become better. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about or ask you. That's what I'm hearing you say is the intellect part of it. You can read a book, you can listen to a podcast, you can watch a YouTube video. That can feed your intellect, but then there becomes like this threshold where you have to push past a threshold to then really be able to grow into the next level. And that's what creating the experience of the event is about, is getting past that threshold of just the intellect, because that can only really get you so far. And let me just say this, there is no reason that we should not grow our intellect because of all of the resources that are out there. There are millions upon millions of books. There are so many podcasts about anything you want to learn about: real estate, parenting, just personal development altogether. I mean, it's just endless. So there's always that's out there. But those you learning on your own are only going to get you to a certain point.
Right.
And it's past that point that you go, well, what's really next?
Yeah. Well, there's so much information that goes in one ear and out the other.
Right.
And you can sit, and it's amazing. We have seen and heard so many people say, man, I heard this speaker, I heard this person talk, I got this information, I read that book. And when people tell me, they'll say to me, well, I'm reading, 50 books a year. And I say, well, that's wonderful. How much are you reading? They'll say, well, a couple hours a day. And I'm like, well, I don't know that that's very beneficial for you, because if you're only retaining just a few points from all the reading that you're doing, then you may be wasting your time by just throwing lots and lots of information in your ear. And, many people do that. And so what we want to make sure that we're doing is that whatever we're learning and investing our time into, that is really anchoring into who it is that we are as a person, and it's something that we're assimilating on the day-to-day. It's in creating those experiences that you become more like the person or the image that you've decided you want to become like. If you don't practice it, you don't become it. And I do meet lots of people. You've met people with me. We see people, you just hear stories of people that have gone to the seminar, they've gone to the training, they've gone to the class, they've read the book, they've listened to the podcast, but yet things aren't changing for them.
Right.
And so what I believe is that when you create really strong experiences and the content that you receive is anchored on a deeper level, well, when you feel the pressure then provokes some of the programming that you have. And you can ultimately shift programming when you put yourself into different experiences. A lot of times people say it's their personality that causes them to do certain things. Well, if it's only your personality that's causing you to do certain things and you're only doing what your personality tells you to do, you're never really going to change that much. And so when you can put yourself into an experience to where a lot of this old programming, you confront it, some of the old belief systems and some of the mindsets and some of that internal dialogue comes up, that's where I believe that you can do the work. And maybe you don't have to go to a seminar or a training like we offer. Maybe you don't have to do that, but developing self-awareness where you're continually asking yourself, why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking right now? Why do I feel the way that I feel? And what can I do right now as an anecdotal type of behavior to shift some of the old beliefs or the programs or the limitations that I think that I have? If you're willing to step in and do that and create that experience for yourself, I genuinely believe that you become a different type of person. You're going to get older. A lot of people get older. It doesn't necessarily mean they get better. A lot of people develop wrinkles, but they don't gain more wisdom. That sounds almost scripted, but it's very true. You're going to get older, but the only way you're getting better is to immerse yourself into something that causes you to feel a little bit uncomfortable, which means you're doing something a little differently than how you've done it before. And to me, that's where the gold is found. It's jumping or diving into the cave that before you were unwilling to dive or to swim into. And that's where the treasure is really at. And so that's why we love doing what we do. It's why I'm so into it, so passionate about it. I wake up thinking about it. I go to bed thinking about it. It's what I do. It's what I love, but it's because we've seen such, incredible results from it.
Right. And it's like, a cave. It's something that you have to dive deep into. It's work. It's like to get down to the bottom where you're going deep sea diving, you have to like dig your way down there. Like you have to really work to get down there. And that's where something like this comes into play. The experiences of things is that you have to really immerse yourself into it, and then it becomes a practice. So you practice yourself one day and then into the next. And I think that's where these experiential days or these moments that we have are so important. And like what you said, when people are willing to do it, then we have we have people that are going to our Emerge events, or they work with you and they will say, in the past 2 months, I've lost 30 pounds. Like that's work. That's somebody willing to put in some serious work, and it's not just, they didn't do it by reading a book or listening to a podcast. They did it by putting in the work, and it's completely different experience than just the intellect.
Yeah. There's a big difference between, doing the work and holding yourself accountable to the work, and just being the kind of person that has lots of information and can recite lots of information. Mm-hmm. I look at a person's lifestyle, how they show up, what their day-to-day routine is like, and how they're producing, what their output really is, before I would say, oh yeah, I definitely want to sit and learn and listen from that person. It's not that results tell the whole story, but they tell a pretty good bit of it, and you can sit around and listen and regurgitate information, and you can recite certain things, and you can recite poetry or scripts and so forth, but it doesn't mean that you push yourself on the day-to-day.
Right.
And when you're really pushing yourself and experiencing this threshold that you mentioned in the beginning, I think that's where you either rise to the occasion and you push through and you become a more refined version of you, or you allow this threshold, which is what your normal is, to hold you back and push you down. And the next thing you know, you have these feelings and you have these goals and you have these dreams, and you wind up suppressing them.
Or it's just what most people would say is comfort zone.
Yeah, you just wind up living this thing of comfort. And it's a fast road, right? Like comfort's the fast road to a mediocre life. And it doesn't mean that you have to stay uncomfortable all the time. Like I know some people that are especially for me, it's like I hear younger people talking and they're all motivated and all excited, and it's like, all right, bud, you can dial it down a little bit, because whatever season of your life you're in, it could be very different than someone else's. And so producing results in one season can be very different than producing results in another season. For example, when you're a parent, like we are, for me, winning means that I can be present, I can be with my kids, I can do what I want to do when I want to do it. Right? There were times before when I didn't have kids, different season, that winning for me meant accumulating. It meant going out and closing deals. It meant it meant pushing myself at that level. Now that I'm in a different season, there's a different balance to it. Certain things still carry weight. They're still important, but it doesn't carry the priority that it did in another season.
Right.
And so being honest with yourself and saying, this is what I want to create in this season over this next period of time, whether that's in the next month or 6 months or 5 years, whatever that is for you, you got to be honest with yourself about it. Because if you won't be honest with yourself and push yourself through whatever the threshold is, you become almost delusional. You're not honest with yourself. And it's the old saying, to thine own self be true. If you're not going to be true to yourself, when you look in the mirror, you're going to feel like you're a fraud. You're going to feel like you're not taking your life on, and you're going to know that you're not taking your life on. And that's very frustrating. And, when people ask me, like, how do you stay confident? How do you step up in front of rooms and do what you do? How do you coach so many people? I'll tell you that the answer to it is not that I was born confident like this. It was that I decided to do it. I thrust myself into it. And now through consistency, I'm in it. Busy becomes the blessing when you've decided to be busy at something that matters to you. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're really productive. But when you're busy at something that matters to you, then that's productive. And that matters. It becomes the blessing. And so not having experiences where you're stretching yourself into a better version over time, I think your brain gets bored. I think you get frustrated with yourself. I think motivation leaves. And the next thing you know, you're not living with passion. You're not excited about your life. And you're just going through the day to day. And the next thing you've gotten through the day, but you haven't really gotten anything from the day. And I don't want to live like that. I know you don't want to live like that. This is what we talk about. But when you move into these different seasons of life, yes, the priorities are going to change. But I think in all seasons, we have a responsibility to hold ourselves to a little bit of a higher standard, put ourselves into these experiences, these places of intentional tension where we can grow, and then we have something to pass on to those that will follow us. And, I think it would be sad, as I've heard many people say, you go to your grave with your song still in you, meaning that you haven't sung the melody that you are saying the melody that you have within you because you didn't give yourself the opportunity to do it, or you didn't step into that. And I know I just don't want to be that way.
Right.
So.
One thing that I'm hearing is that through creating these small experiences in the day-to-day, you overall throughout your life are going to have one large life experience where then you can look back and you can see the visible steps that you've taken to dive into becoming a better version of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the small experiences that lead up to the bigger experiences and so on. So we can, in my opinion, I feel like we can listen to the books, we can go to the motivational speakers conferences, we can do all that. But then what you said was the motivation leaves. Then what?
Right.
So that's where the experience comes in. The then what? You have an experience, you understand where your blind spots are that you can't see. You can see what the threshold is and how you can push past it. And I think that's what the difference is with what you do with your work, because it's a work and it's the work. Like
right.
you have a work that you do with people, but it's the work that we do together. And it's the work that you do individually as a person to get past these thresholds.
Right.
So yeah. I feel like it goes in stages. Like you said, first comes like the awareness. You didn't use the word awareness, but first comes the awareness of like what it is that you need to change or what your thresholds are and where you can't push past. Then what would be stages after that? What would you, if you could group it into stages? First is the awareness. Mm-hmm. Of the experience and where you need to go after that. So then what would be the next stage?
Yeah. So after you develop some self-awareness, so let me be clear on something. You said that you know blind spots. You have blind spots at every level. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So I can say that in my life right now, I have blind spots at the level that I am at.
Right.
A person that's building a business, it's $1 million company, right, has blind spots compared to someone that maybe has built it to $10 million. There's things they don't know. And so in our life, the reason that we want to continually put ourselves into different experiences is, one, so we can gain more wisdom, but also so that we can see ourselves in different environments and in different settings so that we can see what we're really capable of. And psychologists called it set and setting, and they knew that it was very important to put people into different sets and different settings so that they could watch and see what their behavior was like in different scenarios, right? And so with that, this is why putting ourselves into experiences, we can start to see what it is that we're made up of, what some of our programs are, what some of our blind spots are that maybe we didn't know we had, and then having someone there to help and to facilitate more of this awareness and take it to a deeper level. That's what coaching, when I work with people, is all about. It's a serious work, Jennifer. Yeah. It's not something that's a game. And the reason I say it's not a game is I listen to a lot of people and they're entertainers. Mm-hmm. I listen to people, they know their 3 points, they know their 3 jokes. It's an entertainment talk.
Witty quotes.
It's great. Yeah. It's wonderful. And hey, there's a time and a place for all that, because look, if you got an organization that is just, they need morale improved and they're down, and somebody comes in and tells them some jokes, makes them laughs and gets the energy up, and then that begins a conversation, wonderful. But the type of thing that I love to do is to take it on a little more and say, hey, why is morale low? What is it that's going on? What are some of the commitments that we've had? What are some of the mindsets that we've had that have led us to the place where we are?
On an individual level.
Individual level, right. And then cumulative as a group. I mean, mm-hmm. as we start to do this together, a group or a team is made up of individuals. And so when I talk to people, I'm going after the individual because I know that the individual plays a role within that team. Everybody goes back to their space, they go back to their cubicle, and they do what they're there to do. I've worked with everybody on every level, Fortune 100, Fortune 500, you know all this stuff, like big level people. I don't talk to them differently per se, because what I'm doing is going after the individual. I know if I can empower the individual, then the individual will go back and do what their job is that they've been hired to do. I'm great at my job. I trust that they are great at their job. I'm going to help them do their job well if they let me do my job well. And my job is to dig in and to push. To me, it's not to just inspire and make them laugh and put a smile on their face. Some people don't like that because it makes people very uncomfortable when you start pushing buttons as far as their programming. And it's not that I, in a sense, don't have my own programs. It's just I know what happens when those programs start to get fired off. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. And I know how to navigate past them. I know how to reground and recenter myself. And so as far as developing self-awareness, that is the first step to it. Once you develop the self-awareness, you can see what some of your blind spots are. And then you go, okay, this is an anecdote to this blind spot. This is me doing what I need to do. And then it's a matter of taking action and stepping into that on the day-to-day. And what you wind up doing by taking steps and action steps day-to-day is you wind up practicing yourself into another level of being. Without the practice, you don't become it. It's the old quote, practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes better, right? Practice doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice does. There's the two quotes around practice. It is a practice. I coach people that are doctors, and guess what? They have a practice. It's a practice. It's a person that comes into the practice, a chiropractor. Someone comes in to get an adjustment again and again. It's more of a lifestyle based on a practice. It's doing something.
It's literally adjustment.
It is an adjustment, right?
Yeah.
And so when I work with people, it's an adjustment of their mind. It's an
Right.
adjustment of their thinking, because you can stress yourself back into sick if you don't get a hold of your thinking. And so your perspectives. And so for me, the reason that I love doing the work is because there's something that happens on a core level that I believe everybody has been given a tool to be able to break through if they are willing. But
Right.
a person, it has to be willing. I don't think anybody else is set to rescue us. I don't think there's anybody else that's going to save us from this. I think that we were put here for a reason, and that's to see what we can create. And in that, that's the becoming part. Otherwise, you're always relinquishing your own responsibility or your own empowerment to someone outside of you. And the longer you do that, I'm not saying that you have to solve every problem in the world. There are people around you that have resources you don't have. But I think at the end of the day, it's us taking responsibility for how we behave once we've had a bit more self-awareness given to us through different experiences, different modules, different exercises, different types of training, different types of insights, different wisdom shared to us. It's what we do after that makes all the difference. Otherwise, it's the saying that unrewarded genius is a proverb. There's so many people that have so much insight, but it's unrewarded because they're not doing anything with it. And if you don't do anything with it and you don't assimilate some of these practices and some of these practical insights into your life, and you don't do something after you develop self-awareness, the problem is you could become more frustrated with yourself than you were before, because now you know what to do. You're just not operating with the courage to do it. And if that's the case, now you're deeper into your program that's holding you back. And do you understand? There's what they say is nothing more frustrating than not getting an opportunity is getting an opportunity that you weren't prepared for. And I think the way that we get prepared for other opportunities and other levels of success is to practice, to do the work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's what all this training, that's what seminars and workshops that I offer is really about. It's about your day-to-day. And so that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in, having being a guru per se, and being a person with all the answers. I just want to have a life that works, and I want to help people to see what's possible for them so they can make their life work. It's offering them the tools so their life can work better.
Yeah. And nothing is, to me, is more heartbreaking than seeing someone who has something that they're dealing with, and it's almost like it's right there in front of them. They just can't see it. When you just can't see it for yourself, you need someone to help you see it, to take off what you say, the sunglasses, and put on a new pair and go, this is another perspective that you didn't even have a clue was even out there.
Right. Yeah. And blind spots are, it's called scotomas. It's these blind spots where you don't see. And how the brain works, there's so many different facets to how the brain works. But, in time, things that you decide are really valuable to you, you start to find. What you look for, you find. And so if I make changing my life, improving my life, becoming a better leader, if I make that an absolutely high priority value thing, then I'm going to find resources around me that can help me to become that.
It's that law of attraction. They will just start showing up.
In
a way,
sense, it is. And I think there is the law of attraction component to it. It is you become what you think about, you become what you believe.
But then an intentionality on
with an
finding.
Intentionality, because I think the opportunities, Jen, and the resources are passing us by all day, every day. I think they are. I think that you draw some to you, like based on how you think and what your energy is. I think that there's something, and I think sometimes the opportunities go right past you because you don't think that the opportunity could ever work for you, that it's for someone else. And there's a bit of I'd say ego and I don't want to say narcissism in the unworthiness component, because as I've said before, and I actually said it recently, you can believe that everybody else in the whole universe is worthy of really great things except you. And so in a way, you think you are different, unique, or superior to everyone else in your own unworthiness. And so if I don't think that good things can happen for me, but I think good things can happen for Jennifer, I think good things can happen for my friend Kevin, I think good things can happen for my friend Joe, or whoever, right? But it can't happen for me, then I in some way think I am different than everybody else on the planet. And it's the old saying, and I've heard it many times, the way to find out that you're unique is to know that you're not. Mm-hmm. And so you work yourself out of this idea that you're so different from everybody else, because there's so many different things that people use as these catchphrases that I think disempower them so often. It's like, well, I'm so blessed and I'm so favored. And it's like, well, if you say that, great, but what are you doing with that? Because otherwise it just becomes some narcissistic view that you in some way are entitled to all these good things without you being willing to put in the blood, the sweat, and the tears that you need to put in to produce results. Like, you're not born great. You're not born a professional. You're born an amateur. And the difference is the hours behind the scenes that you put in. And that's the difference between people that make it happen and I think that feel good, right, about their life. I mean that in all honesty. I think it's that people feel good about their life when they know and really look at clearly what they would like to do. They put it in small, bite-sized increments, and then they get after it. Because once they've developed that first step of self-awareness that you're talking about, and then take the action steps on it, then you get to find out really what's there. You fall on your face, you screw it up, but you get back up again, you go for it one more time, and then after you go for it one more time, you get to see yourself in a little bit of a different way, and you say, well, I screwed it up that time, but I got back up, so if I screw it up again, I'll get back up again. Then you start believing that, you know what, no matter what, I won't stop until. And when you decide that you will go until, that's when you become really powerful. Otherwise, all it takes is one phone call, one email, one person, one rainy day, one situation to throw you off and keep you off course. And none of us are any different in that every single day we have the opportunity to choose, re-choose, and choose again whether or not we're going to keep pushing ourselves. And in that, if that causes people to feel frustrated or feel like, well, that's unattractive, like I don't want that in my life, I don't want to have to push myself, then this kind of information is not really for them, right? Like right. There's information that's good for certain types of people, and maybe it's not good for other people, but I think what we're talking about is really good for pretty much everybody, because I think everybody has great potential, but they got to be willing to do the work on it.
Well, it is. That's exactly what came to mind when you were just talking about some of the things that you were just saying with pushing to another level and recognizing what it is. This is not for people who have like big, huge goals, that not just for those people that have big, huge goals of like, I want to become vice president of this company, or I want to get a pay raise of this amount or whatever. It's not just geared toward those kinds of things, or I want to start my own business. This can be for, I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better spouse. Like, it can be as from one end of the spectrum to the other. And it's what the whatever the work is that you're willing to put into it. By the one conversation, the phone call, what's the next step. And I'm not going to stop until I get that. And I'm not going to stop until I feel like I am present with my children and they can tell. I'm not going to stop until I have an intimate relationship with my spouse or partner, whatever. Or it could be the big goal too. It's everything in between. So it's something for everyone. Yeah. It's not just a way big goal setting thing. That's what I think is really important for people to understand, is that the work is the work no matter where you need it to be.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. And I think the reason that's the case, I know the reason that's the case, is because no matter what level you are at, there's always another level.
Right.
No matter, and I say what level you're at, it doesn't matter what you do or what your title is or what your position. There is always better. And if you get to a point where there's no better and you don't feel that you can grow, then you're in the wrong spot. Your time in that position is up at that level. There are things that you can do, adjustments, tweaks that you can make. You know, you're talking about being a mom, and if a person says, well, I'm a mom. I don't have a job per se that I go to work for a company, but I work for my family, and this is what I do. As a mother, there are ways that you can get better.
Oh,
And
yeah.
absolutely. And you look at, how you are, how patient you are, how you take on your own self mentally,
Right.
how you physically push yourself so that I think you would have better energy levels so that you could spend time with your kids playing and doing what you want. I think there's things that if your kids are a little older, you can read certain things, study things to learn and know and grow, create experiences to where you make an impact with them so that they pick up on more of who you are, not just what you tell them. And I think there's growth in all of it. I think that if you just started with a company, obviously there's growth. If you're the CEO of a company, there's obviously growth. There's other ways to lead. And I think most people that, like you mentioned, CEOs, people that are running companies, they know that. They know that. And so the people that I get to work with, they know. It's like, we know there's another level. So bring it. Whatever you got, bring it. And we sit down and we have these conversations and we do these types of trainings that we're mentioning. And it makes an impact for people. And we all have a responsibility to make an impact for others. And we're all leading people, as I've said many times. So no matter what we do, no matter what the title, the position, no matter how long we've been there, there's always another level. And as long as you're okay with that, knowing, yes, there's another level. It's not beating yourself up because you're not there yet, because you got to be patient with yourself. But as long as you're aware there's another level for you, and through that awareness, you would say, the next step I will take in growing is going to be this. And then that day you hold yourself accountable to that. Over time, it becomes cumulative. And you look up, and now as you said earlier, your life, you look back on it and you go, I gave it what I had. I really did. I gave it my best. I wasn't perfect, but I gave it my best. And you know whether or not, because I know whether or not I'm giving my best to something.
It's personal.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
All personal development is personal. So I can't expect to grow if I won't take this personal. This is serious work. I don't think of being a parent as very casual. I don't take it casual. I don't think being a husband. I don't think being a leader in my home. I don't take that very casually. I think about these things day and night. It's what wakes me up. I wonder how I can get better. I'm like, what can I say? What can I learn? Where can I find the words? I want to be able to have the words at the right time when the opportunity comes up for me to talk to my daughter Addison, if my daughter Kennedy, if they ask a question, if you ask a question, if the phone rings and it's somebody saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me with that? I want to have the words for that. I think that we all have a responsibility, and I think the days of saying, well, I'm just going to pray for you. Well, I think that's great, but I think there needs to be a lot more to that than just saying, oh, I'm praying for you. It's like, okay, I'll pray for you, but what am I doing to help you solve that problem? Because on some levels, right, I think we have the tools to solve a lot of the problems that we're saying that somebody else needs to solve for us. Saying, well, God hopefully is going to solve this. It's like, well, are you doing everything in your power to solve the problem? Because I don't think God per se is going to solve a problem that you've been given the tools to solve yourself.
Right.
And so for me, it's doing the work and digging in so that whatever is behind me, whoever follows or whoever might be alongside me, anybody that works alongside me, anybody that I support, they know that I'm digging into this work as much as I can. And I think that as leaders, and we're all leaders, that work it's important for all of us. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Did I say too much
No.
today?
No, I just sit here like awestruck that you can just take it to so many different levels. Like
it's 33 minutes in.
No,
Come on.
I mean that's why and how you do what you do.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you should stop by the studio more often.
Okay.
Hey guys, listen, our Emerge event that we have coming up, Scottsdale, Arizona, March 7th. It's a Saturday from 8:30 to 4:30. We are super excited. If you want to get registered for this event and would like to come, we still have seats available. It is ronniedoss.com/events. ronniedoss.com/events. Get registered for that here in Scottsdale coming up March the 7th. It's going to be a great day. We would love to see you there. Ms. Jen Doss, do you have anything else that you want to say?
No, this was great. Just tell everybody where else they can find you on all social platforms.
Oh, yeah. So, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we've got Facebook. Ronnie Doss I have a Facebook profile. It's not just my homepage, it's the other profile page. Ronnie Doss. Yeah, we have Ronnie L. Doss, but we have Ronnie Doss. And my website, ronniedoss.com, has got our video memberships. We have access to our books, the things that we've created. We have so many different training videos created to help people, and they're helping people all over the world. So, yes, ronniedoss.com. But again, if you want to come have an awesome experience like what we were talking about today and the importance of creating these experiences, come hang with us for our Emerge event, March 7th 2020 here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's going to be a phenomenal day. We look forward to talking to you guys again very, very soon. Take care.